All right. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining in this session on matchmaking of horoscopes. Now, the reason why this session was planned is because most astrologers or let's say most general people, they want to know how matchmaking is done, and what they come up with is the traditional Gunamilan system, which is also known as the 36-point system. Okay, so the problem with that is you will have a lot of scores when the charts are matched according to the Gunamilan system, but eventually what happens is that the marriage eventually turns out to be a difficult one. This has happened with most of this happens with most people. All right, we've seen that charts having very less points, they survive somehow, and then the charts which have very high points, they somehow end up in a very difficult situation. Okay, just to take a case in point, when the horoscopes of Sri Ram and Sita were matched, what happened was that they had a match of 36 out of 36, but eventually it was a big disaster waiting to happen when both of them got married. Okay, of course we can link it to the Leela of the avatars that they were playing, but eventually what happened was, what happens is, this is a common problem that we come across in most charts. Okay, the charts match according to the Gunamilan system, but then in real life it does not happen that way. The same situation does not play out into real life. Okay, so just start with the recording, and then just start with the slides, and then we can begin with it. Okay, so just hold on, I'm experiencing a few technical difficulties here. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the thing. All right. So this is about matchmaking, the effective way. So we will not go for the traditional Gunamilan system. Of course, you can access those reports from any online astrology app or any paid software that you have. But what we are looking at is the effective way of matching charts that actually work. Okay. Now, Vivaha. So what is Vivaha? Vivaha is the coming of two people together for walking towards their spiritual destination, right? So it is basically, we are in a from the Indian perspective, marriage is all about having a partner who walks you to your spiritual destination. Of course, the journeys are individualistic, so as to say. But what happens is, once you are married, that is, you are actually being assigned to a friend who is having his or her own spiritual destination. But what he or she is doing is that he or she is helping you walk to your own spiritual destination. That is the meaning of Vivaha. Okay, so Vivaha is the coming of two people together for walking towards their spiritual destination, right? So children from the Vivaha are a way to pay the Pitrarin debt from the forefathers, right? So what happens is that as human beings, we have a debt towards our ancestors. Okay, the ancestral debts we have, and that is, of course, it is seen from the sixth, eighth, and the 12th houses. But whatever it is, the point is someone brought you to this world. That means you came through someone to this world, and the ones whom you came through, they have, they have arranged for your fooding, for your clothing, and for your housing. So it's a debt which has been acquired over a large period of time, and then that debt cannot be, that debt cannot be repaid, so as to say. So in a way, you cannot, you cannot repay your debt to your parents, nor you can repay your debt to your ancestors or forefathers who have looked after your parents. So what you can do instead is that you can have children out of that marriage, and by bringing up your children with the same love and affection, can help you in a way to pay your pitrarin, which is the debt from forefathers. Okay, so this is the real objective of vivaha. Okay, it's about having a friend, a lifelong friend, that is, who will help you to walk towards your spiritual destination, or who will give you company in your journey towards the spiritual goals of life. And then you are also having a way to pay your pitrarin through having children. So we have a lot of in antinatalism which is coming up, which says that you should not bring children into this already overburdened or overpopulated world. But these are just modern day theories which have come up from various factors, right, influencing our world. So I'm not against it, and neither do I stand for it. But at the end of the day, if you are going into a marriage, the main aim of marriages are these two. Okay, so you have to understand the concept of vivaha. Okay, so vivaha is defined by Parashara as the ultimate bondage which leads to your liberation. Okay, vivaha is referred to as the ultimate bondage that leads to your liberation. So you are bonded with a partner, your spouse, that is, and then that spouse is helping you walk towards your spiritual destination. Okay, so before the vivaha, what happens, right? The girl must be seen as an aspect of Mahavidya or Parvati, who nurtures the groom and becomes the mother of his children. So this is a very important distinction to make. Okay, this is a very important distinction to make, because after in our culture, it is a common misconception that the girl is seen as an aspect of Lakshmi, right? But in reality, you should not see the girl as an aspect of Lakshmi, but you should see the girl as an aspect of Parvati, who will become a mother to your children. Okay, so it was a very famous quote by Napoleon Bonaparte, who said that, "Give me a good mother, and I'll give you a good nation." So the main aim of Vivaha is not to have someone who enhances your wealth. It is to have someone who will mother your children. Okay, the boy must be seen as an aspect of Vishnu, who provides for the bride and the family. Okay, again, this is a misconception that we are taught, our girls are taught that you must have a husband like Shiva. But honestly speaking, how many girls how many females who are here in this seminar, or who will be watching the recordings later on, how many girls want a partner who is smeared with bhasma, ash all over his body, wears only a tiger skin, and sits naked, or sits bare chested? So that is Shiva, isn't it? So you don't want your husband to be that, right? I don't know how many of you want a husband like that, but in reality, your husband should be seen as an aspect of Vishnu, who provides you security and who provides support to the family. Okay, so this is something. Yes, it is Ashishji, it is. But the point is that we are not looking at, the end of Vedanta, right? Parvati and Lakshmi, of course, the same. Similarly, Shiva and Vishnu are, of course, the same. They are part of one and the same reality. But here we are looking at their manifestations, how they are represented. Okay, so Vishnu is actually represented having nice dresses filled with ornaments, who is the nourisher, who is the preserver, that is. So this is the reason why we see the bride, why we see the groom as Vishnu. Okay, right. So Bikon is saying that पर शिव चतुर्दशी में शिव जी के जैसे पति पाने के लिए शिवलिंग में दूध चराते हैं बहुत सारा. So there are a lot of misconceptions going with the shivling. How many of you would know that females are not supposed to touch the shivling at all? But we don't see that rule being followed, right? Of course, that is followed in the south, but here you do not follow that rule. So females are not supposed to touch the shivling. Why? Because Shiva is so pure that he can be touched only by Shakti. And it may be an argument that the female is an aspect of Shakti, but the point is that only an aspect and becoming complete Shakti is very different, right? So for a female, it is prohibited to touch the Shivling, but we don't follow that anymore, do we? All right. So Monday fasting. So you are not fasting to see the groom as Shiva. You only pray to Shiva to make Vishnu come to you. So this is a very important thing to remember. The end goal of Monday fasting is not to have a groom like Shiva. Okay, I don't know how many of you would be able to adjust with a groom like Shiva. Nevertheless, you only pray to Shiva to make a Vishnu Sarupa come to you as your groom. Okay. After the Vivaha, the bride becomes Griha Lakshmi and assumes the role of Mahalakshmi, the sustainer of the Kula. Okay, so after the Vivaha, the same girl whom you were seeing as Parvati now becomes your Griha Lakshmi, and she assumes the role of Mahalakshmi, the sustainer of the Kula. Okay, because the real wealth will come from your Kula, right? At one point of time, you will die. Okay, but you will not take anything with you. You will even leave your body behind. Okay, your body will be either buried in the soil or it would be eaten up by the fire, right? But then what will sustain is the lineage that you have created. Okay. And contrary to most opinions, I'll give a counter opinion. A girl will not have any gotra. Okay, girls do not have a gotra. The girl will take the gotra of her husband. Okay, the girl will always take the gotra of her husband. So this is this is one simple solution, or this is one simple argument that can demolish the caste system altogether, right? We often see this problem, the boy and the girl must be of the same caste while getting married, right? But the point is the girl does not have a gotra. Okay, the girls the girl does not have a gotra. She will take the husband of she will take the gotra of the husband after marriage, right? The groom assumes the role of Narayana, the sustainer of the family. So here you see only the because the girl does not have a gotra, so only her role is changing. Before the marriage, the boy was seen as an aspect of Vishnu or Narayan, and after the marriage, the boy remains as Narayan. But the girl, the girl before marriage, she must be seen as Parvati. Okay, she must be seen as Parvati, but the boy remains as the girl must be seen as Parvati before the marriage, and after the marriage, she becomes Mahalakshmi. And the groom remains the same. Vishnu Narayana remains the same. Okay, so we'll have a webinar to discuss how the problems of marriage can be solved and how how to get someone married if marriage is not happening. That's a different topic altogether. I'll not touch on that. Okay, problem, right? Men are from Mars while women are from Venus. They simply don't understand each other's language. Okay, so by language I am meaning the rotation of the planets, right? So you'll see Mars astronomically, it will always rotate in an anti-clockwise direction, while Venus will rotate in a clockwise direction. So that the language becomes very, very dissimilar. Okay, they are very opposite to each other. What does the PPHS suggest? Mars and Venus are dire enemies. Okay. Yes, I understand when they say like Shiva, it does not mean only outer appearance. But the point is, even if someone who has a very good internal appearance, who is very, who is very pure like Shiva, how many girls would be ready to marry someone who just goes to a party wearing maybe a lion skin and smearing his body with ash? No one. Unfortunately, no one. Okay, because here we are considering the materialistic aspect of Vivaha. Otherwise, you don't have to marry even. You just have to take the vows before the holy fire and you are done. But people do a lot of things which are practically unnecessary during the marriage, right? So Mars and Venus are dire enemies. So this is what the BPHS says. They are the Atishatru grahas. Okay. So matching of horoscopes by the traditional method of Guna Milan or the 36-point method just does not work. Okay, so this is a problem that I have discussed initially before starting with the presentation. So if you are matching horoscopes by the traditional method of Guna Milan, the 36-point method, it does not work. Okay. Often, yes, you can type your question, Siri Prasadji. I'll be answering that. Often it is seen that marriages with high points fail while those with very low points sustain. So this is a common factor that we all encounter. Okay. Some astrologers also have the concept of nakshatra matching. Okay, that works to some extent, but again, it will run into a few problems because we are seeing only the seventh, nakshatra is Vayu Tattva. So we are seeing only the Vayu Tattva matching, right? But the other tattvas also have to match. Okay. So Kalatra Karakas. So you remember this throughout the webinar. Okay. So for females, the Kalatra Karaka is Mars or Mangal. For males, it is Venus or Shukra. Okay. Mars and Venus are opposite, so opposite attract. They say Mars and Venus, some say they are neutral to each other. So I'll go with what BPHS says. Okay. I'll go with what BPHS says. The point is Mars and Venus are enemies according to BPHS, right? Of course, there are certain texts like Kala Amrita by Kalidasa. Of course, it's not the Kalidasa who was was a devotee of Kali. But there is Uttar Kalamrita by Kalidasa, and there is also Prashna Marga by by Harihara, who says that Mars and Venus are neutral. Okay, we'll go by BPHS. So the Kalatra Karakas for females is Mars, which is Mangal, and for males it is Venus or Shukra. In BPHS, husband is Jupiter is husband, not Mars. No, this is not correct. This is not correct in a way because the role of Jupiter in as husband is debatable. Okay, why debatable? Because Jupiter is the husband only till a child is born. After a child is born, Jupiter says, thank you very much. I'll go for my mantras. Jupiter will assume the role of child. Okay, then Mars becomes the husband, right? Okay. So if the Kalatra Karakas now, okay, so this is the first pointer. Okay, these are pointers, right? These are some sub pointers. That is, I've included pointers at the end. So these are the pointers to it, right? You just have here. You must assume that you are not talking to the client. You're just taking a glance at the charts. Okay, you're just taking a glance at the charts, right? You're not talking to the clients. You're just taking a glance at the charts, and here are the glances that you can take. If the Kalatra Karakas are associated with the first or the seventh house, good marital harmony is ensured. Okay. For example, Mars in Lagna or Mars as seventh lord for female, the female will be devoted to the husband irrespective of reciprocation. Okay. Similarly, Venus in Lagna for male can never give up supporting his spouse. Okay. If the Kalatra Karaka and the seventh lord are not connected to Lagna, then there is very little attachment to the spouse. So as astrologers, this is the first glance that you are taking. Okay. This is the first alone. It will work alone as well as with combinations. Okay. So this is the first glance that you are taking at the chart. Suppose a couple has come to you for resolving their marital issues. This is the first glance that you are taking. Okay. You are looking at the Kalatra Karakas. So this is Kalatra Karakas and degrees. This is a research that is based on by astrologer Sri T.S. Gopalakrishnan. Okay, he also calls himself Astro GK. Right, he is from the south. So if you want to follow him, you can follow him on YouTube. Right. So check if the Kalatra Karaka is a high degree or low degree planet. Right. Check if the Kalatra Karaka is a high degree or low degree planet. So I've abbreviated high degree as HT and low degree as LD. So Mars for female and Venus for male. Low degree, if the Kalatra Karaka is lower degree, then you have a lot of karmic overload as pap or sin. That means you are having a lot of karma to overcome in the marriage. Okay. High degree, that means you have brought some punya into the marriage. Okay. Similarly, high degree planet gives care but not love. Okay, so too much punya is also not good, right? Too much punya is also not good because you are caring for the spouse, but the spouse will say, oh my God, you are not loving me. You don't have much time for me. Lower degree planet gives relationship love, but not care. So you have seen those abusive lovers coming in, right? You've seen the husband beating the hell out of his wife. We also, because we are in India, we also have the opposite case, right? We have wife beating husband. So we have husband beater wives too. So there you are having a relationship or love, but you are not getting that care. Okay. High degree, low degree, you have to see whether they are, they are within 0 or 2 degrees, and sorry, for low degree, whether it is 0 or 2 degree, and high degree above 24 degree. Okay, that is how you look at it, right? I did not make this distinction. For high degree, it has to be 0 or 2 degree, and for for lower degree, it has to be between 0 and 2 degree, and for high degree, it has to go beyond 23 degrees. Okay. Lower degree planets give bitterness, but the Jataka tends to love its significance. Okay. So here what happens is you are getting bitterness because of lower degree planets, right? But you are loving that significance. That means you are disguising that bitterness in the name of love. Okay. So what if my husband beats me, or what if my wife beats me? He loves me a lot, or she loves me a lot. That is the situation you are looking at it. High degree planet tends to ignore the significance. Even then, it will keep delivering good or gifts. Okay. So here you are not concerned, as I said, you are not concerned much about love. You are more concerned about care. Okay. You are more concerned about care, right? So you'll keep on delivering good things to your spouse. You'll keep on delivering good gifts to your spouse, whether or not the love is there. If an high degree is married to similar high degree, similar traits and successful. If a low degree is married to similar high degree, love but opposite tastes and without harmony. Okay. So a high degree of male having a high degree Kalatrakaraka married to a female having a high degree Kalatrakaraka, the marriage will be more or less successful, right? But suppose someone has a low degree Kalatrakaraka but is married to a high degree Kalatrakaraka, love will be there. Okay. Love will be there, but harmony might not be present. Okay. Low degree will like another low degree. Okay. So if someone has lower degree Kalatrakaraka and getting married to another Kalatrakaraka, the likeness will be there, but then matrimony might not be successful. But then if someone has a high degree Kalatrakaraka and another has high degree Kalatrakaraka, matrimony will be successful, but likeness may not be there. Here Kalatrakaraka for male is Venus. Yes, it is. Lower degree. Lower degree Mars will not separate from husband, but will have pains. Okay, so you may be in a very abusive marriage. That is Venus, because Venus, Kalatrakaraka is Venus for males and Mars for females. Lower degree, Mars will not separate from husband. That means if a female has a lower degree Mars, you may be in a very abusive marriage, but you will not separate from your husband. You will find it difficult to separate from your husband. Okay, higher degree Mars will feel inadequate even if on gold spoon. So here, if your Mars is higher degree, you will have a lot of expectations from the marriage. The spouse may, the spouse may bring stars for you, right? The spouse may bring stars for you. But the point is, you will not like that marriage. Okay, you will not like that marriage. Okay, so these are the starting points that you look at the chart, in the chart basically. Okay. All right, just a minute. Okay, pointers in matchmaking. So now you are beginning. Okay, now you are getting to the meat of things. Okay, now you are getting into the meat of things. The Lagna lord of the boy should be in a sambandha with the fourth lord of the girl, or vice versa. So this is the most important principle, right? This is the most important principle. Please understand this. The Lagna lord of the boy should be in a sambandha with the fourth lord of the girl, or vice versa. For example, the male chart has Cancer rising, while the female chart has Sagittarius rising. If Moon and Jupiter, the rulers of Cancer and Sagittarius, and Venus and Jupiter are in a sambandha in either of the charts, it is an excellent match. Okay, this should be, this should, yeah. So the male chart has Cancer rising. So what will be the first house? The first house will be, the first house will be Cancer. The fourth house will be Libra, right? The first house will be Cancer. The fourth house will be Libra. So in the boy's chart, right? In the yes, and if the female chart is no, I'm not coming to the Navamsha. I'm only saying in the Rashi. Don't go into the Navamsha directly. Similarly, the female chart, if it is Sagittarius, right? The female chart will have first house ruled by Jupiter, and the fourth house is again ruled by Jupiter. Okay. So if Moon and Jupiter and Venus or Jupiter are in a Sambandha in either of the charts, it's an excellent match, right? So this is the most important principle. It is not mentioned in any astrology book. Okay. So you can have charts, right? Where, suppose a Capricorn and a Sagittarius, a Capricorn and a, how to see Sambandha, conjunction, aspect, Graha Drishti, Rashi Drishti, anything. Okay. So suppose a a Capricorn ascendant is getting married to a Scorpio female. Okay, it's a worse match. On first look, it looks like a worse match. Mars ascendant getting married to a Saturn ascendant. But then what is the fourth house for, what is the fourth house for Scorpio? The fourth house for Scorpio is what? Is Aquarius, ruled by Saturn. What is the fourth house for Capricorn? It is Mars, right? So this is a very beautiful Sambandha coming in. Okay, so this is how you look at it, right? So this is the most important but the most neglected principle. Now suppose if this thing is not matching, then you will go for other pointers. I said that suppose a Cancer ascendant is marrying a Scorpio ascendant, right? So on first glance it looks like the worst of matches because Mars and Saturn are enemies. But then for a Capricorn ascendant, what is the fourth house? The fourth house is Aries, right? The fourth house is Aries. And for a Scorpio ascendant, the fourth house is Aquarius. So it's a Sambandha, right? The first house of the girl is making a Sambandha with the fourth house of the boy, or the first lord. Similarly, the first house of the boy is making a Sambandha with the fourth house of the girl. That is how we look at it, right? Next, Tithi matching. Match the Tithis of both the charts. So this is another important principle. Those who have attended the Panchanga masterclass, they will know what I'm talking about. Okay. So match the Tithis of both the charts. A mismatch of Tithi Tattvas will cause the marriage to come under severe stress. So this is extremely, extremely important. Please understand this. This is extremely, extremely important. While matchmaking, people hardly pay any attention to the Panchanga, but this is extremely important. Okay, so the Tithis, the 1st, 6th, and the 11th, that means Pratipad, Shashti, Ekadashi Tithis, they come under Agni Tattva. The Dvitiya, Saptami, Dwadashi Tithis come under Prithvi Tattva, right? Tritiya, Ashtami, Trayodashi Tithi come under Akash Tattva. Chaturthi, Navami, Chaturdashi Tithis come under Jala Tattva. Panchami, Dashami, and Purnima come under Vayu Tattva. So Agni is a complete mismatch with Jala, or Agni is a complete mismatch with Jala. With Vayu, it can lead to breakups, right? Prithvi is a complete mismatch with Agni. Prithvi is a good match with Jala. Prithvi and Vayu, stressful relationship. Akash will match with everyone because it is ruled by Jupiter. Okay, Akash Tattva will go with everyone. Similarly, Jala is a complete no for Agni. Okay, it's okay for Prithvi. With Vayu, no, it is a mismatch. So this Tithi matching principle is extremely, extremely important. Okay, even if this thing does not match, or even if this thing matches, if the Tithis are not matching, then you are causing, then you're looking at a lot of problems within the marriage. And then be very, very careful with Rikta Tithis because they have an excess of the Apas Bhuta, right? The water element is very, very high in Rikta Tithi. So these people, they will be in a constant need for love and self-validation. Okay. All right. Match the Navamsha Lagnas. The Lagnamsha lords of the Navamsha charts of the boy and the girl should be friendly towards each other. Okay. The Lagnamsha lords of the Navamsha charts of the boy and the girl should be friendly towards each other. If the boy is Virgo, fourth is Sagittarius, Jupiter. If the girl is Libra, fourth will be Saturn. So if Jupiter sits in Capricorn or female fourth house, is that considered good? Yes, it is. It is, because Jupiter and Saturn are, no, the boy's fourth house and the girl's fourth house are matching, right? The boy's first house, the girl's fourth house, or the boy's fourth house and the girl's first house should match. It is the opposite thing. This is not good. Anyways, Jupiter is debilitated. It is not good. Okay. All right. So the Lagnamsha lord, that means the Navamsha Lagnas should match. So a Leo rising Navamsha matches very well with Cancer rising Navamsha because the sun and moon are friends. While a Pisces rising Navamsha does not match with a Capricorn rising Navamsha because Jupiter and Saturn, they are neutral, or some texts, they will consider them as enemies. Okay, your Rashi Lagna may be anything, but you also have to ensure that the Lagnamsha lords of the Navamsha are matched, because this will indicate how open you are in the marriage. Okay, how freely you can speak before your partner in the marriage. This is very, very important, right? This is very, very important. Match the moon signs. So these three are the most important pointers. Okay, now we are going to the other pointers, right? See, Gemini and Aries Navamsha, no, because Gemini is ruled by, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, Aries is ruled by Mars. They are enemies. Okay, that is how you look at it. Yes, it may be a good match. I'm not saying it is not you should not proceed or things like that. Of course, the entire charts have to be seen. But if you look at the closeness factor, then either the boy or the girl will be hesitant to speak to each other very, very openly. There would be a lack of honesty, not trust, but honesty in the marriage. Okay, there would be lack of honesty. That means the girl will hesitate to speak her mind freely before the boy, and vice versa. Match the moon signs. Okay, so if suppose the Navamsha Lagna is not matching, so you match the moon sign. Count the number of signs the moon in the boy's chart has to travel to reach the moon in the girl's chart. This indicates the emotional connect between the couple. So if the Navamsha Lagnas are not matching, then you look at the moon signs in the D1 chart. Okay, so you have to see the number of places the moon in the boy's chart has to travel to reach the moon in the girl's chart, and not the other way around. Okay, because the girl is coming to the boy's place. Okay, unless and until we are living in a very matrilineal society, the girl will be coming to the boy's place. Okay, so you have to see how many signs the moon in the boy's chart has to travel to reach the moon in the girl's chart. Yes, by sign counting. So 1 to 4 places good, 5 to 8 places is average, 8 to 12 places is bad. So for example, the boy may have a moon in Leo, the girl may have a moon in Cancer. So on first glance, it seems like a good match. But then the boy's moon has to travel 12 places to reach the girl's moon. So it's not a good match. Okay, that is how you look at it. Okay, 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's good. 1, 2, 3, 4 is good. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4 is good. 5, 6, 7, 8 is average. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right, 9 to 12. This should be 9 to 12. Okay, this should be 9 to 12. I made a mistake. Yeah, this should be 9 to 12. This is bad. That means same Rashi is good. You have to be very careful with same Rashi. Why? Because if you are in the same Rashi, then it also undergoes Hade Sati together. Then what happens? One of you, both of you will be very, very irritable, right? You will experience Ashtam Shani together. You will experience Kantak Shani together. So all the Saturn peers will experience together. And if one of them lacks in certain kind of maturity, then you are having it. Okay. All right. Match the Venus signs. Count the number of signs Venus in the boy's chart has to travel to reach Venus in the girl's chart. This indicates the conjugal happiness between the couple, right? So one may be, one may be very open for conjugal relationships. The other partner may not be that open. So you have to see the number of signs Venus in the boy's chart travels to reach the Venus in the girl's chart. Okay. So this is again a mistake. Sorry. So 1 to 4 places is good, 5 to 8 places is average, 9 to 12 places is bad. Now, so these are the combinations, right? These are the pointers, important pointers I mentioned. Maybe I've included a few other pointers as well, but let's see the combinations for arguments or discord. Okay, so this is the most important problem in the marriage, right? If both boy and girl have one of these 4 combos, Mars Rahu, Mars Ketu, or Venus Rahu, Venus Ketu, in their individual charts, they will fight with each other very often. Okay, so both of these charts, both the charts have to have either of these combinations. Suppose the boy is having Mars Rahu, the girl is having Venus Ketu. Okay, then they will fight with each other very often. If one chart has it, the other chart does not, then no problem. Okay. The Kalatra Karakas, Mars or Venus, if in sync or synchronicity with the spouses Rahu or Ketu, they lose their harmony and fight very often. For example, suppose the boy has Mars and Ketu together. Okay, the girl might not have it. Okay. Oh, sorry. Suppose the boy has Mars and Ketu together. And then in this, suppose the boy has Mars and Ketu together in the sign of Capricorn. Exalted Mars, right? Exalted Mars. Similarly, if the girl, what did I say? Okay, let's take another example. Suppose the boy has yes, the boy has Mars and Ketu together in the sign of Capricorn, right? Similarly, the girl has Mars in the sign of Capricorn. That means Mars is combining with the Rahu Ketu axis of the boy. So this is a combination for marital discord. Okay, so you have to understand this, right? So this is not a, this is not a this is not to say that okay, the charts will not match, but you have to warn the, we have to warn the couple as astrologers that this is the combination and you will be fighting very, very often. Other pointers: check if the deficiency in one chart is counterbalanced by the deficiency of the other. For example, if the Lagnesh is in the hidden houses like 6th, 8th, or 12th in a male's chart, and if it is similar in the female chart too, they tend to accept each other's deficiency and the marriage sustains. So if your Lagnesh is going to a Dusthana, the Lagnesh of the spouse should also be preferably in a Dusthana. In that case, the spouse will be very accommodating of whatever shortcomings you have in terms of discernment, because Lagnesha is your discernment factor. If Lagnesha or 7th lord of the bride is in sync with Rahu Ketu of groom and vice versa, then there is no intimacy and congenital relationship between such a couple. Okay, so if you come across charts where, where either the spouse or the groom is, either the spouse is complaining that, we do not have conjugal bliss, or we do not have conjugal relationship, we haven't had any proper conjugal relationship, then check this thing. Right, so if the Lagnesha or the 7th lord of the bride is in sync with Rahu or Ketu of the groom and vice versa. Okay. If female's moon is conjoined or aspected by male Saturn, that lady will be burdened with Saturnine responsibilities and can feel trapped in the marriage. Okay, so the male's Saturn should not fall over the female's moon. If it is happening, the lady will experience some Saturnine burdens. You mean Lagnesh in Aries? Lagnesh in Aries, Rahu in Aries, like this? No. Just reiterate the point here. Lagnesha or 7th lord of the bride is sync with Rahu or Ketu of groom and vice versa. Okay, so suppose the female has Leo Lagna. Okay, in that case, the Lagnesha will be moon and the 7th lord will be Saturn. So if the boy has either Rahu moon or Rahu Saturn or Ketu moon or Ketu Saturn, then there is a problem. Okay. All right. So if the male's Saturn is going over the female's moon, that lady will be burdened with Saturnian responsibilities. So no, I've not included only responsibilities. I've included the word Saturnian responsibilities. It means the female will have to work very, very hard after the marriage. Okay. And this can lead to some kind of trapped feeling in the marriage because Saturn is also the Karaka of prisons. Right. However, the aspect by Guru can significantly reduce the malefic impact. So if this thing has an aspect of Guru, then you will be saved. Okay, you will be saved. Even if this sign is, suppose if this conjunction is happening in Guru's sign, then also things will be good, right? So in my case, my spouse's moon is in Sagittarius. I have a retro Saturn in Sagittarius. In that case, this thing is getting reduced by 50% because it is retrograde. Saturn is retrograde, and because the conjunction is happening in Sagittarius, so the impacts are significantly reduced. Okay. Right. If an exalted planet in one chart is in debility in the other chart, the differences of opinion with respect to that planet's significations will persist for life. Okay. So if one is having an exalted planet, that planet should not be debilitated. Right. For example, Mars exalted in male chart and debilitated in female chart, then the differences in Mars related matters like sexual passion, property, land, etc. will sustain between them. It may not cause separation, but differences persist throughout. So how do you deal with this? You will deal with this by dropping all the differences that you have in relation to these matters. Okay, for example, I have a retro Saturn, which is as good as exalted. My other half, she has a debilitated Saturn in Aries. So I'll always have a problem that she is not working hard enough. She is not putting extra effort in her works or in her duties. So in that case, every time I go to that, I go to that point, my mind goes to that point, I simply make a conscious decision that I'll not criticize her for this. Okay, so this is how you deal with it. Okay, no marriage is perfect. So you have to deal with it despite, despite all the problems. Okay. If one's moon is aspected by others' Jupiter, it is a good synastry. This is very good. If the synastry is in good bhavas to Lagna, if not in good bhavas, it will still reduce its malefic impacts. No, but the point is, if retro Saturn is in Jupiterian sign, then it will be as good as exalted. Okay, if retro Saturn is in a Jupiterian sign, it will be as good as exalted because Jupiter is expanding the significations of Saturn. Okay, so if one's moon is aspected by others Jupiter, it's a good synastry. So the boy of the moon, so the moon of the groom should be, if the moon of the groom is aspected by the Jupiter of the spouse, it's a good synastry. But for for reaping the benefits of this synastry, the combination should happen in a good bhava. That means in a Kendra or a Trikona bhava. Okay, in either of the charts. If in Dushthanas, it will not be 100% effective, but still malefic impacts will be reduced. If moon is in 8th house for a girl, is sync with the boy's Jupiter, it will lift the moon and reduce its 8th house effects. Okay, so suppose the girl has moon in 8th house and the boy's Jupiter is aspecting or in conjunction with it, then the 8th house impacts of the moon will be reduced. Okay, if the moon is in synchronization with others Jupiter in 159, that means in the Trikona houses, it will be an excellent match. Okay, so moon and Jupiter, it can give a lot of good effects. Okay. Horoscope with Mars-Venus conjunction. If matched with another Mars-Venus conjunct horoscope, excellent conjugal harmony. Okay. However, if one's Mars-Venus sign has the nodes, especially Rahu in other, it is an absolute mismatch. Native with Rahu will always keep criticizing. Okay. For example, let's say a male has Mars-Venus combination in in Capricorn. The female has Mars-Venus conjunction in say Pisces. Okay, the male has Mars-Venus combination in Capricorn. The female has Mars-Venus combination in Pisces. So initially, it will look like that it's a very good match for conjugal harmony. But then, suppose suppose the male native who had Mars Venus combination in Capricorn has a Rahu in Pisces. That means that Rahu is falling over the Mars Venus combination of the female. In that case, the male will always keep criticizing the female. That is how you will look at it. Okay. The horoscopes with dosha like Mars or Saturn, Mars plus Saturn plus Rahu, etc. in 7th house would still sustain normal marriage if married with another native's horoscope with defect like mismatch in status, very high, very low, physical deficiency, etc., like deaf, dumb, etc. So suppose someone has a bad combination or a difficult, let's not say bad, but a difficult combination like Mars, Saturn, or Rahu together in the 7th house, the marriage will sustain, but then it has to be some kind of a mismatch either in status. Okay, if the boy is of very high status, the girl has to be of very low status, or vice versa, or physical deficiency. Suppose one of the partners of the marriage is suffering from some physical deficiency. Okay, maybe a finger is missing, right? It could be someone who is deaf, it could be someone who is dumb, and so on. Rahu should be in conjunct. No, I said Rahu, if Rahu is conjunct, then it will cause problems. Okay, so conclusion. So this is a golden rule. Problems always come from high expectations. Okay, if you have very regular expectations from the marriage, it'll sustain no matter what combinations you have. Keep your expectations minimum. If you want to annihilate a dosha, wholeheartedly accept the defect or deficiency of the partner. So dosha will always come from some kind of defect or deficiency in the partner. So if you are open to accepting it, right, then it will sustain. All right, so thank you everyone for joining in. I'm just opening up this forum for questions. If you have questions, then you can type it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and let me know the questions.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, what about where 6th Lord is affecting the 7th house?
See, 6th Lord affecting the 7th house, you have to look at because 6th house is the house of celibacy. Okay.
Okay.
7th is the house of house of partnership.
Okay.
So this combination is not as bad in the Lagna chart, but if this is happening in the Navamsha, then it will require some serious remedies.
Okay. Suppose in Lagna chart, Guru is 6th Lord and coming to the 7th house.
See, Guru in the 7th house is anyways not considered to be good because it is getting Dikshunya. Okay, Guru gets Digbala in the Lagna, so in the 7th house it will get Dikshunya. So what will happen is that number one, the first problem it will cause is that it'll delay the marriage. Okay, it'll delay the marriage, and the marriage will happen after 32 because Guru will give its results at the age of 32. So it will happen after 32, and if still is not happening, then you need Upapada fasting, because Upapada fasting will save this marriage if it is happening.
So what fasting do you name it?
It is known as Upapada fasting. That means fasting on the day of the Upapada Lord. Upapada is the Arudha Pada of the 12th house.
Okay, sir.
We'll go into details in another webinar some other time.
Okay.
7, Saturn in 7, delayed marriage. Not exactly delayed marriage, but if Saturn is in the 7th house, you will marry a very spiritual person or you will not marry at all. Okay, are all marriages made in heaven? How do you see that if marriage is because of prarabdha? All marriages are because of prarabdha only, Ashishji. You will not, you cannot marry someone with whom you do not have any prarabdha, no prarabdha, basically. Okay, marriages are made in heaven, of course they are, but the point is whether we make it heavenly or whether we make it hellish, that depends a lot on us. Okay. In Navamsha, what is Navamsha, Bikon? I did not understand. Jupiter sync or aspect, I did not understand. In Navamsha, in Saturn in 7th Navamsha, look at the sexual orientation of the person. It could very well mean that the person is not marrying because he or she is not completely straight. Okay, this is for D1. Okay, Saturn in 7th in D1 will either marry a very spiritual person or not marry at all. Jupiter sync or aspect, I did not understand in the example of moon in 8th house in case of female. Okay, suppose the moon of the female is going to the 8th house, right? and the boy has Jupiter in the, suppose the female has whatever, the female may have any chart. So the moon is going to the 8th house, and from the male the male Jupiter is aspecting that moon in the 8th house of the female. In that case, the negative qualities of the 8th house would be significantly reduced. It will not be eliminated, it will be significantly reduced. Okay. All right. So I think we have come to the end of the questions also. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining in. Tomorrow we'll be having a session on how to read a horoscope. We have already done the first session. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
sir,
Yes, I can hear you.
can we have this video of this here?
Yes. I think you are in the group, isn't it? You are in the group, basically.
Yeah.
Yes. The video will be uploaded on YouTube. I will be sharing the link in the group.
Thank you, sir.
Right.
The class was very nice, sir. And I joined a bit late, so
I understand, sir. The video will be available on YouTube shortly.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
What is this group, sir?
This is the Jyotish group. I think you are not in the group, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not in the group, sir.
Okay, you
I
just
am also not in the group, sir. Yogesh sir sent me the link.
okay. What you do is that you take down my WhatsApp number. It is 9101-489-058.
Sir,
9101
just a second.
9101
901
489
489
058.
058.
Okay, so this is my WhatsApp number. You just ping me personally. I will add you to the group.
Okay.
Right. All right then. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll be having another. Yes, RTG, tell me. Okay, so we'll be
No,
having...
I was just saying, like, thank you so much for this,
Yeah.
very
Most welcome. Most welcome.
yeah.
All right, so we'll be having a session on how to read a horoscope. We have already covered the first session. Okay, so if you want to go through the first session, I recommend you go to my YouTube channel, Jyotish 108 Vedic Astrology for Everyone. There is a video named How to Read a Horoscope Part 1. So just go through that. We'll be covering Part 2 tomorrow, and will be another part next week. Okay, the next of next week. All right then. Thank you everyone. Namaste for joining. Om Gurave Namaha.